Hello and welcome to the Wolf and Forest Early Years webinar on supporting children's emotional well-being. So in this webinar, we are going to explore what grief is, understand the impact grief and low levels of well-being can have on learning and development, how to spot the signs of when a child is experiencing grief, share the ideas and strategies on creating emotionally safe spaces where children can feel safe, increase their resilience, and are well supported to cope with strong emotions and maintain a sense of normality in an otherwise turbulent time. And we will also think about the impact quality attachment has on children and the vital role the key person plays. There will be opportunities within this webinar to pause and reflect individually or as a team on current practice, individual children and families in your setting, and identify actions to take away and implement in your practice. So it's important to note that whilst we're all experiencing a new normal, for children, experiencing grief and change can happen at any time in their lives. So the information shared in this webinar is applicable to different times and scenarios. So bereavement, transition, separation anxiety is not just COVID related. We also need to remember that we're not therapists, but as early years practitioners, we're in a prime position to effectively support young children and their families who are experiencing grief. We can't fix things, but we can ensure that we are providing effective emotional environments, building strong attachments. And as a team, arming ourselves with shared knowledge and understanding and strategies that can help. So before we think more deeply about what grief is and what symptoms a child might exhibit, pause the webinar and take a minute to think about when a child might be experiencing grief. So grief is a loss of normality, a feeling of acute, deep sadness, usually caused by bereavement, loss or disaster. And children might be experiencing grief when, for example, during lockdown at home, children have had a variety of different experiences, some not as positive as others. They've lost their normal and life is now more about the unknown. Some children may have experienced and suffered a bereavement of a family member, a sense of loss of freedom, missing friends and extended family members. The lack of face-to-face support for families may have increased tensions in the home. Some families may be experiencing food poverty, mental health, and financial insecurity. Some children may be struggling with separating from their primary caregiver after extended periods at home, away from the nursery, and for some children this may be the first time that they've ever left the side of their parent or carer. Social distancing, they may have only been with their immediate family and not used to other people being around or being left with others. And for some children, they may have been exposed to continual news updates, which might have fed into feelings of stress, fear and anxiety. And children pick up on stress. They might be afraid of germs, and they may be worried if they leave their parent, they'll never see them again. So it's crucial to remember that a child's life experiences and events may well impact on their emotional well-being. So take some time, pause the webinar, and either together as a team or individually, take a moment to reflect on how you felt during lockdown. And how do you feel right now? So we need to be in a good place ourselves to be able to support children effectively. And it's key to remember that children are emotional sponges and absorb stress from those around at home and in the setting. So there will be some children returning to the setting who will be struggling with attachment and grief for whatever reason. So children's feelings will be the same, but they will express themselves differently. We need to be listening and watching closely all the time. We need to be looking for little changes. We know our children and we're getting to know the new children coming in. As a team, we need to draw upon experiences of working with children and use the Leveren scales of well-being if we use them in our setting. We need to use our knowledge from transition meetings with families, the two transition documents, the All About Me and the All About My Child document. We need to be talking to families and using our teams to unpick what we can see or suspect. Look at those children whose learning journals are empty or don't have much in them. So ask why. Watch. Are they engaging with other children, with adults, with the environment? Who are they playing with? How are they playing? And are they joining in, or are they just following at a distance? Where are they playing? Are they playing? Are they looking busy? They may be looking busy, but are they deeply engaged, or are they just flitting from activity to activity? They may be in the mix with all the children. They may be loud and chatty and confident, but is there an element of conflict? So watching is really key. Recognizing common symptoms of grief. So young children do not have the language to express how they feel. They show us that what they want and the emotions with which they're dealing with through their behavior. They are finding other ways to communicate. Challenging behavior can be an attempt to take control of the situation, and be aware that behavior is communication. The children we're with are very little and they're communicating with us. So be aware that behavior is communication. They're trying to tell us something through their behavior. As a team, we need to be thinking about what resources and strategies we are putting into place to support these children who are communicating their needs. What books and music are we using? Music and books give lots of opportunities to discuss and explore emotions, different emotions. So a great book that addresses bereavement is Badger's Parting Gift. The use of puppets allow children to explore different emotions on their own terms. So here are some common symptoms that young children, common feelings that young children may exhibit when experiencing grief. And common symptoms can include changes in usual behaviours. So look for those little changes. A quiet child is now a loud and chatty child. They could be putting on a front. Or the loud and chatty child is now quiet and withdrawn. Irritability, a lack of concentration. They're clingy, behaving aggressively, hurting themselves or others. They may be angry physically, verbally, and silently. They may be demanding extra attention. There may be difficulty with self-care, sleeping and eating. There may be more frequent toileting accidents. They may be withdrawn, quiet, not engaging with the environment, adults or peers. There may be a regression to an earlier stage of development. And there may be hidden grief symptoms that can include unexplained pain, tummy aches, and racing heartbeats. These are the symptoms, the same symptoms that we as adults experience when we're under stress. So we need to be aware that behavior is communication, and be aware of all behaviors that we like as well as behaviors that we don't like. When dealing with children with challenging behavior, we need to remember that the behaviors that we focus on are the behaviors that we get more of. What behaviors are we paying attention to? Look for the positives. Focus on the things that we want to see more of, we want to encourage. So supporting children's well-being is not about behavior management. It's about unpicking what a child needs, understanding what they're trying to tell us through their behavior. So if your setting uses Louvren scales of well-being, look out for children demonstrating those low to moderate characteristics. Are the children looking dejected, sad, frightened, angry? Are they responding to the environment? Are they avoiding contact? Are they withdrawn? Is their posture, their facial expression, actions indicating that they're not feeling at ease? Does the child have a neutral posture, their facial expression? Are they showing little or no emotion? Are there any signs that indicate sadness or pleasure or comfort or discomfort? Have they got those tense shoulders, rigid body? Possibly they're rushing around, or maybe they're moving very cautiously, hanging back or inactive. So it's crucial, it's key to step back, really notice what's going on with the children in our settings, the emotional well-being of the children in our care. How are they right now? Check in and observe throughout the day. Emotions change minute by minute, day by day. We know that when a child has low levels of well-being, they will not be thriving, they won't be learning, developing, and they will not be developing those strong, positive relationships that are so crucial. Their brain and mindset are not in a place where they can learn and develop. They are troubled, stressed, and unhappy. So Pause the webinar and take a moment as a team or individually to brainstorm words that describe how you felt when you had high levels of well-being, when you felt really great, when you felt emotionally secure. How did that make you feel? What was your approach to life? So maybe these are some of the words that you came up with. So you may have felt open, resilient, flexible, positive, really positive attitudes. You felt really good and well in your skin. You felt like you belonged. There was an inner peace, a calmness, contentness. You're really high self-esteem. You're really confident, you're persistent. Things go wrong, you get up and you have another go and keep on trying. Your real can-do attitude. You feel self-assured, satisfied, settled. So really thinking about like those characteristics of effective learning, really, and that's how the high levels of emotional well-being. So now pause the webinar and together or individually scribe down some words that how you felt when your well-being was low. How did you feel, and how did that affect your approach to life? And what does well-being mean? So often people will come up with happy. It's important to remember, to note that actually we can't be happy all the time, but we can have high levels of well-being all the time. This means that you are well equipped to cope with the lows and adversities that life throws your way. So what has your well-being been like over the past few months? Has it remained the same or has it changed? Were you able to cope with the stresses and strains that lockdown and social distancing and the new normal brings, or has it been difficult? So it's really key to make time to be thinking about feelings with your team and with the children. What does it mean to have high levels of well-being? What does it look like in our bodies? What does it look like in our children? So relationships underpin everything going on in a child's life. When a child's basic needs are met, when they feel listened to and valued and enjoy warm, loving, supportive relationships, they're more likely to cope with life's adversities. As we know, and as it states in the EYFS, the key person is important. So when you're with a special person, you feel safe and secure. The same is particularly true of young children. Attachment underpins everything, and children who are feeling anxious are going to need to feel safe and secure. As humans, when our basic needs are met, we are ready to deal with life. When there are low levels of well-being, when basic needs are not met, if a child is hungry, tired, feels out of sorts, lacks confidence, is anxious, these feelings take over and it's very difficult to focus, concentrate, explore, learn, feel good about ourselves, develop relationships, make friends. And this hugely impacts on a child's learning and development, especially in young children. So ask parents and carers what impact COVID has had on the family. It's critical to find out this information. Has there been any changes in behaviour at home? Has there been a bereavement? Find out the kind of experiences that they've had during lockdown. Have they been out for their daily exercise? Did they spend all day watching TV or on screens? Or have they been interacting on social media with friends and family? Secure attachments are essential for children's emotional development. Don't underestimate the impact that attachments, our role in developing secure attachments and the relationships we build has on young children in supporting them coping with grief and developing the resilience and good levels of well-being. So secure attachments are essential in supporting young children to cope with grief. And children need stability, normality, security. They need familiar and trusted adults, routine, space where they can be themselves, and puppets and soft toys where they can go to for hugs, to talk to or have quiet time with. And often children will talk to or talk through a soft toy about their feelings instead of an adult. I know at the moment there's a big question mark around puppets and soft toys, so this is something that will come out later when we're allowed to. The key person offering consistent, sensitive care and quality time plays a vital role in supporting a child coping with their feelings. Children need familiarity, consistency, and will often see their nursery or school or child-minding setting as a step back into normality, as a safe, familiar, physical place. We need to ensure that we are providing a safe and nurturing environment for children to return to. Before we do, we need to check in with ourselves and see if we are in an emotionally good space. How are we feeling right now, this morning, this afternoon? So for children children need to feel safe and secure, and as keen observers of people and environments, they notice, babies and children notice and react to stress from parents and caregivers around them. And we don't want them picking up on our own stresses and feelings of grief. We need to be putting children's well-being at the heart of our practice. We need to know which families will need extra support during this time. So talk to the families, ask if there's been any changes at home. Has there been a change in behaviour, emotions? Do they need an early help referral or signposting to the children and family centres? Homeschool communication books for those vulnerable families is a useful tool to enable you to engage in regular contact with parents, give them a chance to say things that might be happening in home, as there's not always a chance to do this at drop-off and collection. We need to be watching, noticing our children closely and be aware of that things can pop up from nowhere. As practitioners, we can't fix things, but what we can do is make sure we're doing everything that we can do to make them feel safe. We need to look at our cohort and ask if what we're doing is working for each child. Are they engaging in the environment? Are they interacting with our peers and our adults? Have we matched up the key person to the key child correctly, or do we need to change that? Are we meeting their individual needs and interests? And how are we helping to manage grief? So in the early years, children are very young and will have limited understanding that death is forever. So what we can be doing to manage grief, practitioners often worry that they will say the wrong thing and lack confidence in supporting these emotions. Childbereavementuk.org tells us that the worst has already happened. If the child is grieving, then the person has already died. The grief is already there. And by saying something that may feel like the wrong thing at the time because of the reaction, if they get upset, if they get angry, but it may just mean that you've allowed that child or parent to channel the emotion. You've unlocked the grief that's already there. You're allowing them to grieve. Guidance around language from childbereavementuk.org advises to be direct in our language and to use the word died. Many euphemisms around language we use for death can be confusing for young children. Passed away, well, where have they passed? Will they pass back? Died in their sleep. Well, what if I die in my sleep? Gone, where have they gone? And will they come back? Watching over you. Well, this can lead to immense pressure for children, as they feel like they're always being watched, and so always try to behave in a particular way. So these are some of the phrases that as adults we often use to soften the experience, but they can often become problematic for the child and their understanding of death and grief. So for young children, it's often good to use nature as a way of understanding death. For example, looking at a dead animal or insect or plant, it's died, it's not coming back. Childbereavementuk.org recommends that using nature is a good way to support understanding and talking about death. When a person dies, their body stops working, their heart stops beating, they can't get back, even if we really want them to. I mean, young children will have a limited understanding that death is forever. They're still young and their understanding is still young. So we need to acknowledge emotions and feelings. When they're in undesirable behaviours, we deal with it, not the behaviour, but the feeling behind the behaviour. We need to let the child know that it isn't okay to hurt others or themselves, but it is okay to be feeling like this. Don't ignore it. Remember that you can't fix things, we can't fix it, but you can create an emotionally safe environment for the children to run with their emotions. It's essential to have a whole team approach so that no one is having to support a child or their family experiencing grief alone. As a team, equip yourselves with useful information and phrases that you can have to hand. Everyone needs to be on board to make everyone feel safe. Let the children return back to the setting and give them plenty of time to settle back in. Recognize those children who are grieving. Listen to them, but you can't fix them. Bring out the fun stuff in your provision. Plan for great, open-ended, exciting activities. Explore ideas offered on chit-chat, pitter-pat pages. Look for the ideas shared on the hub provision guides for ideas. Spend quality time with your children, one-to-one, definitely, or in small groups, doing what they are interested in. Follow their lead and be there for them. So there's 6 elements to managing grief. Acknowledgement and empathy. So it's really important that we acknowledge their grief. They need us to reach out to them and continue to reach out to them. So we must keep on checking in. Use our experience to name and identify the feeling words. For children with SEND and those really young children, use language and symbols that you know they can understand. And we know children love human stories. They love hearing about us and what's happened to us. So tap into that. I remember when I was feeling sad when my grandfather died, I was getting a tummy ache. Is that something, it sound like something you're feeling? Or I remember when Johnny was crying all the time. Does that feel like something you feel like doing? Acknowledging and naming the emotions is crucial and allows children to know that what they're feeling is okay. Children will have a wide-ranging emotions that they may or may not understand. And if everyone around them is trying to carry on as if life is normal, then they might start to think that there's something wrong. If they recognize that they may feel some of these emotions, then they're more likely to manage these emotions in a safe way and then start to develop resilience. And this means that they can really manage that difficult thing. Parent partnerships are like the key. So listening to the parents can really help us understand what's going on with that child. Are they sleeping, eating? Do they have eczema? How much time have they spent with other children? Have they ever left their parents' side, even for a moment? Has there been a bereavement or someone in hospital? Are they shielding a family member at the moment? And be consistent and share those strategies that are working in the setting with parents so that they can try them use them at home. Time and space. So as long as they're not hurting other children, then it's okay to be feeling like this. Look at the environment. Are we meeting their needs and interests? Are we giving them time and space to settle? Have we provided for plenty of open-ended experiences? Is there a quiet area, a cozy area for children to retreat to? And honesty, I mean, we don't have all the answers, and it's okay to say that. So, be honest. I don't have the answer. We can explore together, or let them explore. Permission, so let them know that it's okay not to be okay. And control, so their world and emotions are out of control. So giving them manageable things to control, giving them simple choices that they can control. Bring out that fun stuff. Think about your provision. What makes that child tick? What do they like to do that they can't resist? So as we're coming to the end of our webinar, press the pause button and take a moment with your team and alone to reflect on these messages, what these messages mean to you in your setting. Think about individual children who are demonstrating low levels of well-being. What have you done so far? What could you be doing more of? What do these children need? Think about the children who may be communicating through their behaviour. Who are they? And have you talked to the rest of the team and the parents? Children's emotional, mental and physical well-being is at the heart of everything in the EYFS. If a child is experiencing grief, anxiety and stress, then their learning, socialising and basic enjoyment of life will be compromised. Without strong attachments, too much stress for too long, without the capacity to feel comforted by the adults around them, will impact on any child's physical or mental health. The role of the key person in enabling regulation and resilience, attachment cannot be underestimated. The care that you as practitioners provide is critical in supporting children to thrive and get through life's adversities. So just thinking about the hidden grief symptoms, look out for hidden grief symptoms, behaviour, the unexplained pains, the physical pain, the racing hearts. Know that children will behave differently when experiencing grief. Adjust your language and response to fit with the child's understanding. Look for triggers. reactions. Grief can resurface at a later date. What do you need to be telling teachers and practitioners next year when they're transitioning to their next stage? Managing grief is a whole setting approach. Readily engage, keep those conversations going, keep checking in. How are things right now? Is a much easier question to ask, particularly families and adults, rather than the generic "how are you?" as emotions change rapidly. Strengthen those parent partnerships. Just ask, are there any changes at home? What impact has COVID had on the family? High quality attachments are key. So the key person is a vital influence on supporting a child's social and emotional well-being. So thank you for taking the time to join in with this webinar and to explore the emotional well-beings of the emotional well-being and ways to support children's emotional development, especially during this unprecedented time. So if you are keen to unpick this area further, then look out for our live webinar coming up. You'll be able to book on this through Traded Services. Also, do take a look at our Chit Chat Pitter Pat page and the Learning Together project, which is aimed at parents and includes top tips on how parents and carers can support their children with their development at home through fun activities. Chit Chat Pit Pat and the Learning Together can be found on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on the Hub. Settings have been fabulous at sharing the weekly Learning Together activity cards with their families through emails, Tapestry and other online learning journals and printouts. So as to close, just take some time to reflect with your team to consider the following questions and create an action plan on how you are going to support the emotional well-being of the children in your setting. What is working well for your setting? What do you need to develop, including strategies that you implement, and why? And what impact do you feel that this might have, or you hope that this will have? And what children and families do you think will need extra support? So there'll be an opportunity to reflect and develop these action plans in the live webinar and ask further questions on supporting children's emotional well-being. So I'm going to leave you with our contact details and some useful websites. And if you have any further questions, get in touch via the childcare email. And I hope to see you on our live webinar on supporting children's well-being. Thank you very much.